Degrassi, The Next Generation, is a real personal one for your cult boyfriend. I think when I was 11 up until I was 14, these were besties. Fucking loved these guys. I hung out with them all the time. Of course, being American, I watched it on the N, which was devoted to playing nothing but Degrassi, sprinkled in with some My So-Called Life reruns, which I'm glad to say that My So-Called Life and Degrassi, I think, are still pretty substantial when you're trying to figure out who your cult boyfriend is. I'm a product. I am the end result of a steady diet of melodrama, especially teen melodrama. Um, my so-called life is fucking masterful. Oh my god, that's beautiful. But we're talking about Degrassi: The Next Generation today, which has not aged as well, has it? Uh, uh, but the show has a large part of my heart, and a large part of every millennial's heart, every true millennial's heart. I did some research for this video, or I do this stuff all the time, never mind. I did do research in the sense that I watched a lot of Degrassi all over again, a lot of it. It's like returning to my junior high school. Watched a lot of Degrassi, watched a lot of cool interviews, live streams featuring cast members. But what I do all the time anyway is that I'm always curious about the shows or the films that shaped people, especially the people that I'm around within my community. So I'll kind of fish for those nostalgic bits that seem to uh, set a light off behind someone's eyes. And Degrassi always seems to do that. I can go to the bar, I can go to the coffee house, I can go to anywhere. And if people are my age, I could talk about Degrassi, I could talk about Manny Santos or Craig Manning, and something will shine within them. Something young, something forever young will shine within the person I'm talking to. And so many emotions. And it's almost like I'm not talking to the 30-something-year-old person anymore. I'm talking to the 14-year-old version of them that was watching Degrassi. I always think that's really interesting to do. And Degrassi is probably the ultimate example of a nostalgia bomb, or you get right to the heart of the person you're talking to. They feel like such a kid. And I really believe that Degrassi, as opposed to so many other teen dramas that we've covered, should come with a warning, actually. Adults are not allowed to watch this show. I think that this show is absolutely made for almost preteens. If we're talking about the maturity level, the philosophy of the show, it's a show that I believe is truly made for preteens, which makes which makes it all increasingly more problematic. I think the idea is that you grow up with the characters, but the tone should also grow up too, and it never truly did. Like seasons 1 through 3 of Degrassi: The Next Generation are still extremely issue oriented. Linda Schuyler, the architect behind the Degrassi franchise, deliberately made a show that's very issue oriented, almost educational, or at least the impetus for the show existing at all was to be informative to teenagers and to cast age appropriately, so real teenagers playing the teenage characters within the show. And rather than have it unfold like a soap opera, like a melodrama, it would be focused on issues. It would be focused on, I don't know, ecstasy, abortion, teen cutting, like the issues of the time, the prevalent ones of the day, which I always thought was stupid and takes away from characters. But there are some very decent soap opera moments here. I think if I had a primary criticism of Degrassi TNG, it would be the same criticism that I expressed when I talked about junior high. It's issue oriented, and its characters and storylines suffer because of that. And also, when you're issue oriented, it it's unavoidable. Your show will become dated in a matter of years. Your show will feel archaic, not only archaic, but tone deaf and borderline offensive and especially campy. Issue oriented programs like A Very Special Episode, those always suck. The after school special is baked within the skeletal structure of Degrassi, the next generation. The next generation falls victim to the same exact things that I didn't like within high and junior high. And just like Degrassi High and Degrassi Junior High, and even Degrassi Schools Out, Degrassi, the next generation, it never feels like art. It never feels like art. It feels very cheap. It feels half considered. And I know that for some reason the showrunners, they like to think they're never talking down to teenagers, but at the same time, they never think that their viewers are intelligent. They never treat their viewers with a certain amount of dignity that you would find from the from Dawson's Creek or Gossip Girl or the OC. Like they don't care about their viewers. They don't think they're very intelligent. Or like My So-Called Life, I brought that up earlier. Brilliant show that thought that its viewers were intelligent and can handle complicated melodrama while still investigating social issues. Degrassi was a different kind of animal. There's a lot to say about Degrassi, the next generation, but I think the best way to do this is I wrote down the names of all the characters that I want to talk about, which is so fucking many. This show ran for 14 seasons, hundreds of episodes. God, but I was really obsessed with the show when it was on in real time, probably for the first 4 seasons. I Yeah, I was in love with it. Manny Santos is one of the very first crushes I can remember having, and I'm not alone in that. Like so many millennials had the same exact first crush of their teenage years, being Manny Santos. Like literally, it goes the Pink Ranger and then Manny Santos, and you get a millennial boy. But let's see. Let's talk about Emma first. Emma is Spike's daughter. I thought she was possibly the most inconsistent character here because it's strange, right? I compared it to Dawson's Creek, and I'm not the one who started it. I believe Linda Schuyler was the one who started to do that in the sense that Degrassi's different. If your life were a TV show, this would be it. We're not like Dawson's Creek. Dawson's Creek is all 20 somethings playing teenagers, and it's so soap opera y. We focus on real issues. Like, okay, motherfucker, let's talk about one of the times you talked about a real issue with Miriam McDonald, who played Emma. One of her big storylines involves an eating disorder, body dysmorphia. She and Manny actually are struggling, battling with bulimia, anorexia, with an eating disorder. And I think that if you're going to be focused on the issues, then you should probably, I don't know, deeply focus on those issues. That's all you're going to have going for you. If we're going to have inconsistent characters and over the top and silly melodrama, because you want to focus so heavily on the issues themselves, then we should, like I said, we should really give in-depth examples, multifaceted examples, harsh examples of these issues, or else you're sanitizing the issue. The eating disorder, I'm not alone. Miriam McDonald believes that the eating disorder arc was sanitized as well. And I learned from Miriam McDonald that she suffered from an eating disorder. And the showrunners and the writers knew about that and still wrote it for her to perform without seeming to care that this literal teenager, we're making her face her own demons, like in a televised way, in a very insincere way. And I think that that's completely fucking psychotic. From a writer's perspective, that's entirely psychotic to do. And Miriam's own sister and like died from from eating disorder kind of related. It's fucking tragic. Miriam went through a lot, but this shines a light on how Degrassi likes to act like they're so focused on the issues, but the ones that they focus on, they don't focus on with any depth, which makes it seem almost like offensively shallow. And apparently they pay so much attention to what the kids are actually like that they incorporate those kinds of things into the characters, not just big things like eating disorders, but like little things too, like style, attitude. They incorporate it directly into the character, which totally fucks up the young person's mind when they're acting on Degrassi, because they kind of lose sense of the spectacle. They lose sense of like where they start and where the character begins and vice versa. um, but I think it's really fucked up when you incorporate uh like a mental health issue, like an actual health struggle, into the actress's storylines, and make them confront things that they are still processing, that they're still trying to get over, especially something as serious as an eating disorder that that a lead actress on a television show was battling. That is heartless. That is weird. There's no way to defend that, in my opinion. And I think that maybe Degrassi should get a little bit more heat for how it treated its very young stars. And I've said it before when I talked about Skins. I don't think there's any reasonable argument to actually cast actual kids in these teen dramas. Make fun of Dawson's Creek and Gossip Girl all you want. I greatly prefer seeing 20 something year olds or even early 30-year olds fucking playing teenagers, because guess what? Didn't make a difference to me when I was a teenager. It doesn't make a difference to me now. Like, you don't have to have actual kids play these roles. You really don't. It didn't make it like grittier for me when I was a kid, or more realistic for me. I still completely respected something like the OC, even though everyone but Misha Barton was clearly in their mid 20s. Like, I didn't care. I didn't care. It was still fine. It was still perfectly fine. And it's easier for everyone that way. The viewer, the actress, the network, for everybody. It's easier when we don't cast age appropriate. And like, Jesus Christ. Emma, though, if I could just get back to the topic at hand, very inconsistent character, but I always thought that Miriam's performance was pretty great, all things considered. Um, the best couple on the whole show, I will say, is Emma and Sean. There was a great deal of chemistry there, and I love that kind of archetypal match. I love like the good girl and the bad boy. I'm pretty simple when it comes to how I like my teen drama soap operas to unfold. That's really good, and they did it very well. And there's something real about the way that Sean looked at Emma and the way that Emma just melted in Sean's eyes. I liked that. Manny, put my phone aside for a second because I feel like we're gonna spend a minute on Manny. Like, Manny motherfucking Santos. Oh, where to begin? Cassie Steele, wonderful. I think that the best thing about rewatching it now is that I've realized that Manny Santos actually is, I think, the best character on the show, on The Next Generation. I honestly do think that, because like my memory of her was just of her outfits and stuff like that. But like, you rewatch the show and you go, oh wow, she had the most character growth. Like, if Degrassi it goes there, it went there the most with Manny Santos, and Cassie Steele was constantly entertaining. But fuck, man, let me brought up in the earlier in my introduction to this analysis, I talked about going to the bar, going to coffee shops, going to whoever, and asking them about Degrassi. One of the very first things that they bring up before they bring up the school shooting, before they bring up what happens to JT if they made it that far, uh, without a doubt, they're gonna bring up the bejeweled cobalt blue thong that Manny Santos wore. They're gonna bring that up. They're gonna bring up the Manny Santos thong. And like I said, right, like when you talk to these people and they bring that up, their eyes light up. And I'm no longer talking to someone in their mid 30s. I'm talking to that 14-year-old again. And it's guys and girls. Like, everybody brings this up. And I don't think that Cassie Steele cares very much about about that iconic scene. I'm not sure. I know that she like did a cheeky little tribute to it on TikTok. I've seen that. Like, so I know that she doesn't doesn't hate it or have any weird thoughts about it, or at least I don't think that she does, or I haven't seen any evidence that she does. And I guess in real life, she was wanting to dress more hot anyway. But more hot, I understand, dude. Okay, when I was 14, that thong was, yeah, an awakening, a revelation, was incredible. Rewatching it just now, it was disturbing. It was weird. It was fucking gross. I mean, I guess it's great to know that I'm not perverted in any way. I guess that's nice because I thought it was fucking weird. Thought it was so weird. And that's why I'm like, this should come with a warning that says should only be watched by actual teenagers, you know? But even then, dude, I'm thinking of the cameraman who was my age, if not much older, or the writers, you know? I'm thinking of the cameraman though, who had had the view, who had the lens, the frame firmly fixed on a 14-year-old girl's ass in a thong walking down a hallway, or even worse, the scene after where the writers have Manny breathily whisper in Emma's ear, "I'm not wearing any underwear," and then like she bends over to feed, I don't remember, like a fucking turtle, something stupid. She bends over in class and the camera just closes in on her like, oh man, are we gonna see some crack or something? And every boy turns over and looks, which encourages the audience to do the same exact thing until JT like fucking comes into the rescue. uh, that's fucking bizarre. That is sexualization. Like, and I guess it's played for laughs, or isn't it funny or cute how naive this promiscuously dressed young woman is being? Like, I thought she slayed in her outfits, I guess, if I want to use cool internet lingo, but I can't help but think of like, how do you go about actually filming that stuff? Like, how do you do that? How do you do that? Like, when I was 14, it was awesome, and to everyone who brings up that scene, like, the light flashes in their eyes, and they're 14 again. And I don't think any one of them would would like the scene at all when they were 35. So it's all about what that scene meant when you were 14. And while I can, like, respect and have some sort of adolescent, like, horny teenage boy nostalgia for Manny Santos's um like outfits in the earlier seasons, I I there's not only a disconnect with me now revisiting the show so I can analyze it, there's like I'm visibly upset by it. And in the States, we got completely fucked with Manny because I'm gonna talk about like the love triangle later because that was good. That was some of the good melodrama I was referencing earlier. But after the melodrama, Manny gets pregnant because of course Degrassi, the moral panic show of the fucking century, dude. Like everything about Degrassi is moral panic and it's so annoying. She gets pregnant the first time she has sex and has an abortion in a two-parter called Accidents Will Happen, where Cassie Steele's performance is outrageously good. Like so fucking good, all right? In the States, it was banned. So over here, we only got, Hot Manny, like Man Eater Manny. Fucking shouldn't be referring to a 14-year-old like that, but that's how the show presents it. And then we don't even get Accidents Will Happen. We don't even get to see like the hurt, broken soul within Manny that results from a lot of her actions that season. Like we don't even see not only the punishment from the narrative itself, but also like the complete like redemption and resurrection of the fiery spirit of Manny Santos. Like we didn't get to see that because it was banned. So Americans just saw this fucking 14-year-old in a thong walking down a hallway to steal Ashley's boyfriend. Like that's all we got. That's all we got, dude. So we didn't even get like the interiority, and at least throughout the many seasons that Cassie Steele was a part of, she did incredibly. We got some really cool character growth. At least she like melodrama surrounded her. I know that abortion, I know that accidents will happen as an issue oriented episode as well, but you get a lot of cool relationships and triangles around her. I even liked her and Jay near the end of her arc. I like a lot of what they did with Manny. That's where we get the closest to what I love most in teen drama, which is soap opera storytelling mechanics. We get the closest consistently with Manny Santos. I just I mean, there are three iconic scenes of Degrassi. There's the school shooting, there's JT York being stabbed to death, and there's Manny Santos in a blue thong. All three of them deeply problematic in their own way. But the blue thong one, I think, is like the most interesting to me, because it's like when I originally watched it at 14 and when everyone originally watched it when they were very young, we didn't see an issue with it. We were like, oh, this is edgy and hot or whatever. Like that's what we thought when we were 14. And it's so strange returning to like a scene like that. Like I said, that was so that helped form my sexual identity. My sexuality was like partly formed by that when I was 13 or 14 years old. And returning to it now, I don't connect with it at all because I've matured, obviously, like like physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. But like I don't even like agree with it compositionally, narratively, thematically, aesthetically. Like I find it like so disagreeable. But if I took that scene out of the vocabulary of Degrassi, then I might not even be entirely the same. I might not be here talking about teen drama. Like it may all stem from a blue fucking thong. I don't know. I don't know. It's just harrowing, harrowing. Cassie Steele looks great now, by the way. Like she's fucking dream girl till she drops. Swear to God, she's awesome. I just feel so fucking weird watching those episodes, and I feel like I'm the only one. Like I don't know, maybe got a hang up on this one because I look at the comments and it's all these people saying slay, 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 and I'm like, she's 14 though. She's like at the she's got to be 14 in that season, like if not 13. Like she's fucking so young. What are we doing? That's insane, right? That's insane. Whatever. But no one seems to like have a problem with it but me. I think it's problematic now, but no one else. I don't think anyone else agrees. But there, I talked about the legendary blue thong that a fucking 14-year-old wore. Fuck you, Degrassi. Okay, that's fucking weird. Uh Liberty, I thought was an annoying character all the way through. I never liked anything Liberty did. JT, let's talk about JT's death. Stabbed to death outside a party. I think it worked. I think it did its job. It was shocking and kind of brutal for Degrassi to kill the ultimate comic relief character, basically a teenage Jim Carrey, to stab him to death outside of a party is it's kind of nuts, kind of crazy, especially when he's about to go confess his love for Liberty. But can't help but think it's so sloppy. I don't think it really capitalized on anything before it because it couldn't. Because Degrassi: The Next Generation is built upon moral panic, is built upon moralization and issue oriented, almost quasi educational and informative storylines. And when you serialize those things, you not only sanitize them, but you make them more palatable, actually, more digestible, uh, which I think makes it more fake and insincere. So everything leading up to a big character death like JT's is kind of meaningless. And I don't think it hits any of the marks. I think it could have been a lot more powerful if it was written at all correctly. The reason why it's powerful at all isn't because of the writing, it's because people grew up with Ryan Cooley's JT York. I think that's why. I think JT York's a cool character. I always liked him and thought he was always fine. I thought his friend Toby was a complete fucking bad character, and I'm glad that he became more. We lost him more and more in the background as time went on. Toby was like the worst. Spinner was all right. On this most recent rewatch, he's funny. He is fucking funny from like day one. Spinner will have these like deliveries that just land for me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Shane Kipple, I think the actor's name is. Outstanding comedic work. And when he had to be serious, he could be. You know, Spinner was all right. His storylines were difficult for me to keep track of, man. But Spinner was very funny, very enjoyable cat. Let's talk about the biggest, I guess, episode of the show, which is Time Stands Still, the school shooting episode where Rick shoots Drake and then is shot by Sean, essentially. A lot of people love this episode, like genuinely love it, think it's really great and good. I think that a school shooting told with Degrassi's language sanitizes school shooting, paints it in extremely insincere ways, all while the writers claim that they're trying to be so sincere, like they did so much research about it, like so much went into it. And then to me, the ultimate end product is exploitation, because that's also something that I think is unavoidable when you make a television show. And that's why more nihilistic teen dramas, I think, are way better than ones that claim to be so fucking moral, like Degrassi. Skins, Gossip Girl, a million light years better than this fucking show, because they are nihilistic, they are hedonistic, they are anarchic even. They are, in Gossip Girl's case, extremely materialistic, and in Skins' case, narcissistic as fuck. Like, because exploitation is unavoidable when you're making something for television. But Degrassi thinks, for some weird reason, that they are doing the Lord's work and showing us things that we've never seen before, or at least in a way that we've never seen before. But they don't understand that their school shooting episode is just as exploitative, if not more so, than the one in One Tree Hill. The one in One Tree Hill was even better, was a lot better. It did 1,000 different things at once. Most importantly, it kept the soap opera moving. Whereas Degrassi, I think, has somehow deluded itself into truly believing that they are, in fact, educational and investigative. Like, what the fuck was that? What was that? Do you really think you did a good job there? On fans of the episode, you really think that was good? I thought it was so exploitative. I thought it was telegraphed so heavily. Anyway, because the show doesn't care about drama. Doesn't care about drama at all. It cares about the issues. Rick, his return that season was just so fucking telegraphed to be a school shooter, man. Like, I'm not. I've seen videos where people get choked up talking about that episode. I'm not gonna get choked up at all. There was nothing there. Paint by numbers bullshit. Honestly, like the most rudimentary approach to the psychology of school shootings. The most elementary approach, a basic form of it ever, which I feel sanitizes it. Because if you're going to cover an issue, just like the eating disorder thing or the teen cutting episode with Ellie, like, you gotta go deep into it, or else you sanitize it, which in turn makes a mockery of the people that have been affected by those issues. And I think that the school shooting, it's just like any other Degrassi episode in the sense that it sanitizes and accidentally, I think, makes a tone deaf mockery of the real thing. Of the real thing. And like the One Tree Hill school shooting episode works so well because I think that One Tree Hill understands the exploitative nature of television in the first place. So its tone, its composition, its framing, its character work within the episode, the staging of it, even the choreography is completely different. Those things within this Degrassi episode are all flawed, and it's very difficult for me to take any of it seriously. Uh, like, I wasn't affected by it at all. Aubrey Graham, I guess, or Drake, did fine. Like, I think that every person did fine with what they were given. Um, The only interesting thing in that episode was why Jimmy got shot in the first place was because, basically because Jay and Spinner manipulated Rick into thinking that the reason why Rick had been humiliated so bad was because of Jimmy. Like manipulated him into thinking. So like they said it really loud so that Rick would overhear them in the bathroom. And that's why he targeted Jimmy. Like that's the only good part of that entire episode. The only part that actually adds to the very flimsy, extremely basic and weak, paper thin soap opera that had been constructed. A teen drama is nothing without a soap opera. If you don't understand that that's what I believe at this point, then you're completely have lost the point of what I'm trying to say. Um, you're never going to show a school shooting correctly. You're never going to show a school shooting with the gravitas that it deserves. So if you're going to have a school shooting in a television show, you should have it kind of serve the soap opera, not necessarily the superficial trappings of the show itself, but the parts of the show that the people's hearts are the most invested in. You can't treat something as massive and tragic as a school shooting with the dignity and power that it deserves, especially not within what 30 minutes. No, I didn't really care for the school shooting. Brought up Jay just now. Jay was cool. Jay and Alex are both pretty fucking cool. I like them. Degrassi's version of bad kids. They were fun as fuck, dude. Let's talk about some characters that were let down, though. Hazel and Terry. Two characters I really appreciated that were completely fumbled by the show itself. Watch Andrea Lewis's YouTube channel. She's the one who performed the character Hazel. Gorgeous, my god. But like, watch her YouTube channel, and she's been very open about how she felt that Hazel was completely snubbed by the show. Like the showrunners and writers would even tell her that, okay, this season we've got big stories for you. And then none of those stories would happen. In fact, when she left the show, those stories that she was promised to have went to other people immediately when she left. I think that Andrea even said that all that Hazel had going for her was that she was a black girl on the TV show. Hazel could have done so much. Hazel could have done a lot. Terry was forced out of the show. I think at the end of the fourth season, Rick's back. The first time you see Rick, he's an abusive boyfriend to Terry, and he puts her in the hospital. And then Terry leaves the show. But Christina Schmidt, who played Terry, said like she wanted to come back. Like that wasn't a mutual choice. That was just the writers not having anything else for her to do, and it sucked because she was a pretty diverse part of the show, like being her body type and all that. Like I thought that was fucked up too. Hazel, yeah, teen dramas have always had a difficulty specifically with black women on television shows. You know how much I love Bianca Lawson and fucking ride or die for her. She's my queen. She is the actual queen of teen drama, Bianca Lawson. And it's very difficult not to assume that at least in part, if not a large part, the reason why so many of her characters and so many legendary teen shows were so comparatively limited was because of her skin color. Like you have to assume that that plays a role in it, considering how invested someone like Bianca Lawson or even Andrea Lewis were in the characters that they were playing. But Hazel never really got something truly interesting to do. And she could have done so much. I really liked the character, and it's just a lot of wasted potential from a show that, from the outside, definitely seems to act as if it's a champion of diverse stories, when in reality, not so much. I know I'm criticizing it harshly, but I still feel like Linda Schuyler is great. A really interesting person. And Degrassi as a franchise, yeah, it's probably the mother of teen drama as a whole. I was born on Linda Schuyler's fucking birthday, which I believe explains a lot about me. So, happy birthday, Linda, and your cult boyfriend. That's fucking cool. Ellie is a character I always loved when I was younger, especially the way she was first introduced, like kind of emo goth punk outsider. That was like what I was in high school, and the teen cutting was something I really deeply related to as well. But what they ended up doing with that story is what they do with every fucking issue. They sanitize it, and they barely even interact with it. They interact with it in the most superficial possible way, and then the character is almost unrecognizable to me by her like college year. Something I really liked was the love triangle between Craig, Manny, and Ashley in th- season three. Season three. Okay, so season three is when Manny started dressing more provocatively. It's a holiday two-parter. Now, one of the things that annoyed me about Degrassi in the early times, like I'm talking about prehistory, in the early seasons of Next Generation, it seemed like they were, well, yeah, it was Mortal Panic, the television show, and it was providing me with mostly updated versions of OG storylines, so storylines from high and junior high, with kind of roundtable discussions about ethics, which I just roll my eyes at whenever they happen in a television show, especially in Degrassi. But in the holiday two-parter, we get an updated sense, an updated version of School's Out. And School's Out, I still think, is the greatest thing to come out of the Degrassi franchise. That's the most impressive they've ever been. That's the most soap opera they've ever been, right? It's great. You were fucking Tessa Campanelli. Come on, get that tattooed across my chest. That's such a cool part. But I love the triangle in there. Like I said, Manny, Ashley, Craig, which is and the B plot of that episode is Joey Jeremiah rekindling things with Caitlin Ryan. Now, of course, Caitlin, Joey, and Tessa had the very infamous love triangle within Schools Out, and what's going on with Craig and Manny and Ashley is mirroring what happened in Schools Out, almost to a T, like to the point that Manny also gets an abortion, like we're led to believe that Tessa Campanelli does at the end of Schools Out. You know, almost the same exact things happen with Craig being left alone with no one. And Joey even brings it up to Craig, like, I've been through this same exact thing. School's out. You haven't watched the TV movie, Craigster? Like, basically is what he says. But I love the energy there with that triangle. Love soap operas, love triangles. And I also love chemistry. And in that episode, you can at least see chemistry that, like, Manny had for Craig, because I know in real life Cassie had a huge crush on Jake Epstein, and like you can totally pick up on it here, and it makes that power dynamic so much more interesting because clearly Manny's infatuated with this slightly older boy way more than he's infatuated with her, but there's this kind of moral obligation to Ashley that Craig feels. And in Degrassi romanticizes morality, so a moral obligation is more like the strongest amount of love that could be possibly bestowed within Degrassi. So Craig is like truly fucked up, truly head fucked, and doesn't know exactly what to do. And man, I loved that triangle. That triangle still holds up today. The triangle, at least, which is the most important part of that season, still holds up, man. It's still like impassioned, and there's still chemistry within that, and I think there's still decent arguments for whomever side you choose to be on. Team Santos all the way. I wish I could be on an anti-Craig side, but you know that's just not in the cards, is it? That's the holiday two-parter. Probably my favorite episodes of Degrassi. Hell yeah. And like cool romantic moments. Like I do like when Craig runs out to Manny on the ice and like she jumps in his arms and stuff. Like that's cool. That's iconic to me. I like that a lot. That's really nice. Or even the way that Ashley finds out about it by seeing the bracelet around Manny's wrist that had the ice skates on it. Like, oh, that's fun. That's fun. That's fucking diabolical. I love it. But I mean, a problem with that is when Caitlin found out that Joey Jeremiah was cheating on her, she dropped the first F bomb in Canadian television history. So once again, we're getting something sanitized from Degrassi, the Next Generation. So even at its best, it's oh, recycled plastic. But still, I quite liked it. I think that I just wrote that every band that they form is so fucking lame. It's so true. Please rewatch it. It's so fucking lame, dude. I don't think I ever thought it was cool though. That's what was the most like mind-blowing thing to me about the transformation of Aubrey Graham to Drake. Cuz like Jimmy does rap in this show a few times and I was like I remember watching it when it was on television and being like, "Oh, this is so bad, bro. This is so lame." Apparently, I'm an idiot because that's actually what 1,000 number one records sound like. So, maybe you might still love the bands. I thought they were all dumb. After season 4, it does focus a lot more on continuity and melodrama and the soap opera, but it treats melodrama and soap opera with the same kind of callous carelessness that it did with the more issue oriented earlier seasons of the show, meaning that it's all half considered. We never go too deep. We never do anything too interesting or too passionate, too disagreeable. It's just really poorly handled stuff. The characters are cardboard cutouts so much of the time. But the most pissed off I ever was at any character was at Snake. Snake fucking Simpson, you piece of shit. How dare you cheat on Spike? Christine Nelson, easily the finest woman in the entire fucking show. Since day one, okay? Spike is Degrassi. You cheated on her. You stupid moron, bro. Like, Spike, you shouldn't have taken him back. Shouldn't have taken him back, Spike. Spike is the ultimate punk rock mommy, dude. I say that. Once again, dude, I'm back to being like 14. Not in the sense I think of what you're thinking, but I am like Spike's age when she was in the first season of the show. Like I am Snake's age somehow. I don't feel it. But I am their age, not punk rock mommy, just like punk rock I love you. Christine Nelson, Amanda Steptoe, like you're amazing on this show, but like it's so weird that the transformative power of teen drama that you grew up with, like the time travel power of it. Uh, because when I'm watching it, I'm not even identifying with the adults, right? Like I'm back to identifying with, I guess, my inner child, and that's what makes covering, or my inner teenager, who I think is a lot more confrontational than my inner child, but like makes covering these teen dramas so necessary and important because through it you can see how much you've grown, or through it you can see what you're still having issues with, like what you're still hung up on, or even better, man, like you can see all of the struggles that you've overcome, because this is like a time capsule. This like takes you back in time. Like every great thing that I can say about Degrassi, outside of Cassie Steele just being a remarkable actress and her character being the only one that I think had pretty remarkable character growth. Nothing insanely good, but it tracks really well. I liked it. The most interesting things I can say about Degrassi: The Next Generation is more than any other show, that kind of time machine quality of it upon millennials, I believe. And I think that Gen X must have this same feeling with high and junior high, right? Like, and schools out. Like, we go back to being 14. Like, I am 14 again, but yet I'm not. And yet I never could be. And yet now I see all of these flaws and all of the reasons why Next Generation could never hold a candle to something like Skins or Gossip Girl. And they're very obvious flaws at that. Ones that I didn't pay attention to when I was younger. So, like, what did it mean to me when I was younger? I think it meant fantasy to me when I was younger. I think it was interesting to see because, like, I used to cut myself a lot. I think it's interesting to see, like, I do think that was special to me to at least see it represented, you know, through the character of Ellie. Stacey Farber did really well as an actress. Like it was important to me to see that represented. Uh, but more than anything, it was fantasy. It was like, man, I wish I went to school with Manny. I wish I was in Craig's band. I wish that I worked at the Dot, or I wish I just went to Degrassi. Because it's so remarkably close to your life, but it's also so foreign, so impossibly not your own at the same time. It's a really interesting feeling when you rewatch it now, and I guess I urge a lot of you to try watching it again. It's a very strange vibe, but one that I think is really um, eye opening. Because I can still spot where I have to work on myself. And then I can see areas where I've improved so vastly, so differently. And life itself really brought upon a great deal of experience that has molded and shaped me into something of a dignified human being in my pitifully old age of 34. Actually, my birthday's coming up really soon. I'm going to get even fucking older. Lame. What am I talking about at this point? Um, I think Degrassi lost the plot almost immediately because it was never really trying to really control a plot to begin with. It was trying to show us controversial, hot topics like moral panic issues. And then it linked those issues to different characters, and then those characters just kept staying on the show and then had even more hot button topics attached to their characters. They didn't have storylines, man. They had fucking issues attached to them. They had news stories like pricked into them like they were live action voodoo dolls, man. And then sometimes it would happen to them in real life, or they'd be acting out something bad they went through in their own actual real life onto the show, which would definitely fuck up anybody. Never mind a teenage actor. There were a lot of problems with Degrassi, but it never cared enough to have an interesting story, an interesting storytelling framework. It never cared about the mechanics of its own writing. It's honestly, one of the most poorly designed teen dramas I've ever seen. I think it stayed on for so long because it was so trashy, and also because and we do love trash television. Everyone loves it. But just like I was saying, when you are 14, and I think this show is definitely aimed at kids who are 11 to 15 probably. That's probably like exactly who the show's made for. They're not necessarily ready for something like the OC, something like Gossip Girl, or something like Skins yet. They're not ready for it. So Degrassi is, I think, a children's show, even more than it's a teen drama. I think that it follows the storytelling rules of children's media more than it follows the rules of coming of age television and the rules of the WB, for instance, or the CW. I absolutely think that. I think that when you're analyzing Degrassi, it's kind of self-defeating because Degrassi essentially is a preteen drama. It's not even a teen drama. I think that its tone, I think that the depth of its characters, everything, the narratives, the way that it handles issues, it's so shallow that it could only be properly consumed by preteens. And maybe people in their very early teen years. I understand why it means so much to people, and it means a lot to me, man. Like I deeply care about some of these parts, Despite everything bad I've said about it in this video, I still deeply care about this specific version of Degrassi. It's very important to me. There's a lot of myself in seasons 1 through 5. Like I liked it a lot. And I deeply, deeply, deeply respect Degrassi as an entire franchise, as I do believe it's ultimately the mother of teen drama. It's just that, you know, it was quickly surpassed by Beverly Hills 90210 and Dawson's Creek, and My So-Called Life quickly surpassed and bettered. Like, took no time whatsoever. But, gotta love your mother, right? Like, Degrassi, I do love you. I do love you, Degrassi. Very specific kind of teen television, a very specific formula, and it is very enjoyable in very specific ways. Let's check my notes, see if I got anything else, dude. Notes. I just have Nina Dobrev's name with a heart emoji next to it. I guess I gotta say, Mia's cool, man. I should really help myself out more when I write notes when I'm watching 1,000 fucking episodes of a TV show to analyze. Mia's cool. Nina's great. Uh, Nina really has earned her legendary status within teen drama, going from Degrassi to the Vampire Diaries. Oh my god, she's wonderful. She's wonderful. I guess I do definitely have to represent. Gotta say, Nina, extraordinary. Mia was a pretty decent character, had some okay storylines. I actually didn't mind her whole model storyline, that two-parter. We got pretty dramatic there, but even then it was so issue-oriented. Like, we cared so much more about moral panic than about, oh no, Mia's complexities. Like, she was damned. Like, it was just so easy to damn her. I don't think that was very fair, but always, always, always love seeing Nina Dobrev. That's so fucking cool. She was awesome. I forgot she was on the show, so when she popped up in season 6, I think, for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, she's here. She's here. Oh my god. Oh, Nina. Oh, Nina. How I love you. You're wonderful. You're great. Um, yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. That's gotta be it. I'm just doing broad strokes with this analysis. Just trying to talk about things that I thought were really interesting and like continue to be interesting too. And it's really just those things that I covered. The three most interesting things about Degrassi: The Next Generation are JT York's death, Manny's blue thong, and the school shooting episode. Honestly, I think those are the three most iconic moments of the television show. And I think, dude, I have fundamental issues with all of them. I have so many fundamental problems with all of those iconic moments. Oh, they all like fuck up my head and make me like mad now. So many of you have asked me to cover Degrassi, and I know it means a lot to so many people. But I think that why Degrassi means a lot to so many different kinds of people is because, like I said, like there's a part of me in this show, and there's definitely a part of so many other millennials. Like, I don't think you want me to cover Degrassi. I think you want me to cover your own youth because I think it's tied up so intimately to the characters on this show. And I think that when I'm criticizing it, you might think that I'm criticizing your own like youth, your own memory, but I'm not. I'm absolutely not. But it feels that way, and that's to Degrassi's credit, all to the power that is Degrassi. uh, Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi High, Degrassi Schools Out, and Degrassi: The Next Generation. It has that sort of almost metaphysical power, huh? That's really cool. That is really cool. But I think that I get asked to cover it so many times because it just has struck such a personal chord with so many people. And I think like so many people's souls are reflected in Manny Santos, in Craig Manning, in Emma Nelson, in JT York, even in Eli. Didn't mention Eli, that fucking weird emo bastard. Dude, I can't with Eli. I cannot fucking, dude, run away, never look back, dude. Thank you for watching me, dude. Peace.